Okay, could you say your name and what you were doing at the Mehserle verdict rally?
My name's Steve Bencarici. I'm an intern at the Books Not Bars campaign at the Ella Baker Center. And that evening I was working as a volunteer for the National Lawyers Guild, and I was a legal observer at the rally. And the rally, I thought, began very peacefully, very calmly. It was a very, inspiring event, lots of good people speaking, but very calm, not a lot of tension in the air in general or between police and protesters. It only really began to escalate into something even vaguely intense when the cops started pushing people forward. And that, upset a lot of people, but also it was sort of a violent action on behalf of the police. And that's when we started to see both, protesters getting more upset and police acting more violently towards protesters. And then as it got later, the crowd began to dwindle and the police started arresting people with less and less reason, in my opinion, and more violently.
Did you get arrested?
I did get arrested around 10:30. I was observing. I was getting as close to people who were being arrested as possible so that I could get their names and pass them on to the Lawyers Guild so they could be helped out. And the police started pointing at me, saying, "Watch that guy, watch that guy." And eventually one of them came up and grabbed me, asked for my press credentials. I told them I didn't have them, that I was an observer with the NLG. I had my hat on, identifying me as such. The guy said, "Great," knocked my notebook out of my hands and arrested me, or handcuffed me with the plastic cuffs, and wouldn't give me my notes back, left them on the street.
How aggressive, if you don't mind me asking, was the police officer in your arrest?
With me, not particularly aggressive. I think they knew who I was, or at least who I was with, rather, probably not who I was. And other than the sort of initial, just like grabbing me, we're just sort of normal.
Now compare your experience being arrested to.
Well, yeah, I am a young white dude with a National Lawyers Guild hat on. They aren't going to rough me up too much. And I certainly saw a lot of young people of color getting thrown on the ground. I saw one gentleman grabbed by his dreadlocks and thrown on the ground. Wow. Hair came out of his head. Wow. And there was, people getting arrested and on the ground with the cops had their knees on the backs of their heads, things like that. So my experience was I got off very easy. And then they took us down to the jail downtown Oakland. I was in a holding cell overnight with a group of, it varied, but about 17 to 30 people, I guess. And it was a really interesting, and everybody wanted to leave, but I'd say overall, about as pleasant as that kind of experience could be. Had a really interesting group of young people and students and different kinds of activists and community leaders and some lawyers, and it's a really great sort of interesting, diverse group of people having really different conversations. There's a lot of funny moments. There's a lot of really serious talk. It was a pretty pleasant and good experience overall, and I was able to pass on information about the Lawyers Guild to people, which made me feel good about what I was doing, and that it was helpful that I was there.
And what's your take on the general response of the city of Oakland and the police officers compared to the residents, or just your general observation?
Well, I think that the press wanted there to be more violence and more of a story, and for the protesters to get more out of hand. And I think they portrayed it as though it was a lot more wild than it was, even when it did get more intense. It wasn't like every window you were seeing was getting smashed and everyone was looting. In fact, I don't know the exact numbers, but I don't think most people who got arrested that night were arrested for looting, and that's what you would think happened. And I don't think. The police officially said that they started moving and pushing the lines of people back when it was peaceful because people were throwing rocks and bottles at them, which there were plastic water bottles thrown that I saw, but those incidents were far and few between, a very small group of people doing those things. So I think what we had there was a peaceful protest that the police through their actions made into a more violent and intense event. But I think overall it was not a violent event. It was mostly a peaceful protest, and most of the violence that did happen there was police violence.
Okay. And one final thing, do you what's your general opinion of the verdict? If you feel like stating, or
my opinion is that justice wasn't served. I mean, it wasn't a huge surprise that law enforcement was, that Mehserle was basically able to get away with murdering someone. So it wasn't a surprise, but justice wasn't served, and people have every right to be upset and angry. People, not just people of color, but people who care about justice, people who care about equality, have every right to be upset about it.
Definitely. And could you one final time say your name, your where you're working, who you're working with that night, and then what you're currently up to? Like, are you a student or all that?
My name is Steve Bankarici. I'm an intern for the Books Not Bars campaign at the Ella Baker Center. And for the Mehserle verdict protest, I was a legal observer for the National Lawyers Guild, and I'm starting my second year of law school at Golden Gate University next month.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.